I'm sorry. I started Hilchos Gerus. Tonight is October 29th, 2019. We're in volume 2, Hilchos Gerus, page 225. We've started a little bit the Shir already. And we're picking up on 226 by Tosfos on the top. So, since the child later on could claim, for example, let's say Bezdin was Mafish 1/50th. He could claim, well, I didn't want 1/50th. I wanted just one kernel. So since there's this, it's like, that's when there has to be a din of shlichus, and therefore there would be a problem. Aval hacha sheschus gomer hu lo yesh lo shichus. Tosfos says a big thing. Tosfos says if it's pure schus, then Bezdin can act as the shaliach even for the akum.
But you're assuming that there's a pure schus. Where does Tosfos assume that from?
Because what's the choiv? It had a concept of a choiv that if he had already experienced as an adult what it means to be hefker, so then it would be but he doesn't have that yet. So it is. So they view it as a pure schus.
But then it's viewed from a Jewish standpoint that it's a pure schus. In other words, you.
Yes, I understand.
Right, persecution.
No, I understand.
Persecution, halachas.
So
It's a very.
Right, that's
yeah, but it is the Jewish viewpoint because only Jews have olam haba, only Jews have chelek. That's why they view it as a schus.
Gave us that the ability to put that on a child who doesn't have a das. What gave you the ability? He's not a bar das, or she's not a bar das, and here you take.
Okay, so we did it al das Bezdin, and it's from a Jewish viewpoint. Nobody's arguing that.
But when he comes 13, he can.
Let
me ask you something.
We'll get there.
But in terms of
No, the coming to 13 is also not pashut. We'll see how that works. We're going to learn that today.
In terms of a Eved, the Shachar and Eved Kanai,
Yes.
right? So let's say I'm a Shachar and I have him. Is that a schus for him or is not a schus for him?
It's a schus for him. The Gemara always assumes it's schus because he's getting mitzvahs. It's viewed, the Jewish viewpoint is that it's better to be a Jew than to be a non-Jew.
Again, because he's had to take him.
First of all, a half Eved is a different story because he's boxed in. He can't marry a goy, he can't marry a Jew. So
It's so tactile the sutra with what we know, because when it comes to if somebody wants to Magaya, they do everything in their power not to Magaya that person. Why don't they say, "Oh, you're getting such a big schus here, let me help you out"?
That's already if he's a bar das and he's a free person.
exactly, and the Bardas has experienced what it means to be to live a hefkeris. So there they said it is a choy for him.
The mindset. It's a different. It's.
But Walter, this is a practical halacha, because if you come, let's say, imagine that somebody is coming, a father comes with his kids to be Megaya, how you can do it, or a mother comes with his kid, how you can make the kid a Jew? How you can make a kid a Jew? With your approach, with what you say, there is no practical
You should
solution.
ban your children.
Uh,
We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay, there's no question that Walter is correct. It's being viewed through Jewish eyes, but that's how halacha views it throughout. It's consistent. The issue of why we chase people away, we gave other reasons why we chase people.
Right.
That's because
We do
so
it for
much.
the wrong reasons.
It's because they're doing it because they want to get married or for money or the other issues. Okay, so the Gemara clarifies in the continuation of the Tosfos that when the minor reaches the age of bar mitzvah, he or she may reject the conversion previously executed by claiming that the haschala, the beginning of that process, was not with his or her consent. However, after this time, he or she may be no longer able to reject Yiddishkeit.
After she's 12 or 13.
So we'll see that. Now that's, we said a mouthful. Now what does it mean? 1 second after he turned bar mitzvah? What is that time frame and how does that work? L'chora, from what we just said, and we're going to see it inside, the moment after he's in, so that he really didn't have an opportunity to
By the
reject.
way, what
So we'll see how that works.
All depends on the bar das. If you have shnei sa'aros, you consider the bar das. You don't need bar mitzvah.
Say again?
If you have shnei sa'aros,
Yes.
right, you're starting maturing already.
Yes.
You already consider bar das.
Okay, so whether it's 13 a day, we have a chazaka that he has teisairis. But let's say for certain dinim like yibum, they would check him, and if he has teisairis, it would be halachic even before. we're not saying that.
We're talking about
Libum is
gerus.
from nine-
No, but I'm
9
saying,
years old.
no, his bia is halachic bia, but let's say, but they won't, but by certain dinim, he has to have stay Cyrus in order to validate whatever process is going on. So we use 13 and we assume and we don't check, but certain things they will check, even after 13. If like for whatever the halachic ramifications are, where you need to be the proper age. So it says Masech Ksubas, Omer of Yosef, Higdilu Yichol Limchois. This is the source, that once they became an adult, they can protest. Kivin Shigdila Shah Achas, Velo Michsa, Shuveni Chol Limchos. So what's the Shah Achas? So what, he gets 1 hour? It's once. I mean, Shah Achas usually means a second. Means exactly. So what do you mean? So how can you ever protest? You're going to turn 13 and then boom, you already accepted it. What is it? So we have to analyze that. The Ritva gives us two possibilities as to the precise time when the child could protest. Im toimer vehechef shel etzamtzem shetimcha kishetag l'mamish la'alter. The Ritva asks the question: how can we calculate exactly when it's going to happen? The moment he becomes, he's already an adult. Prior, when he's a child, he can't protest. He can't do it before, so it's a catch-22. So how does it work? So tirtzu b'toisfus, the einam gerim gmurim, ad shemoidino somat and schorim v'oinshin shel mitzvahs k'shigdilu. So Toisfus gives us a gather that you got to be magdil, and then you have to go through the process of telling him schar v'oinish as a Jew. V'hochi komer, and this is how the Ritva is reading into the sugya. Kiven shehigdila shah achas, begerus gmura achar shigdila umoidin lahen v'hoidiu la, or told her oinshin schar n'sumutzes shuven echolim chas. So the Ritva's first approach is it's not just higdil, it's higdil plus he has to be told. Vahi shaita hu diavinan like ksuba uknas. So what does that mean? Look at the bottom. The ksub in the knas refers to the section in Gemara Ksubis, which cites the ruling in the Mishnah that a girl who converted when she was less than 3 years old still receives a ketubah, marriage contract stating that her husband will provide her with 200 zuz if he does divorce her when she becomes of age and marries. So even if she was Megayer less than 3 years old and she gets married after the right age, she gets a ksub. Gemara asks that if she can indeed protest her conversion after she reaches the right age, why would she receive a ketubah if she can become a Gentile again, as there is no institution of ketubah for Gentiles? The Gemara answers that if she does not protest after she becomes of age, she can no longer protest her Jewish status again. So that's why she gets her ketubah. And what's the knas? That refers to rape, right? Concerning the same girl who was a child convert, was then seduced or raped, in which case the perpetrator must pay a fine of 50 shkolim to the father. Here too, she will only receive the fine after she became of age and did not protest, meaning that she will remain Jewish. The Ritva here is saying that these halachas are to be interpreted to mean that once the girl has been notified of the reward and punishment for mitzvahs following her bat mitzvah, then if she does not protest, she may receive the ketubah or the fine. So it's clear that that's what we're talking about. It just gives us more detail in that.
If there is a schus mechoes, so how you view the conversion
Up until then.
up until 13?
So-
When is the what? It's a
It's
rabbinic.
why not? We could say lemafreya. Once she accepted, it was always good from the beginning. You have to use that kind of svara. Otherwise, how else do we do it?
Yeah, my son
Now, by the way,
class-
what would be a nafkamina? There's not a lot of things that a child will do that will trigger some kind of halachic thing that we need the mafreya. For example, chinuch, all the mitzvahs that they do, it's also chinuch. We have to think. What nedorim, maybe because mufla samach leish, when you're 12 years old and you make a neder, so it's already chal. So that could be enough kamina, like what Nadi say. That means it's only after he accepts, and then lemafreya it works out. Because he can say before, if there's a process of michui, how can anything he do before work? So you'd have to say brera. It's using retroactive designation. That once he does it, then it goes backwards.
Does boy need
Now there's a
Mila?
second.
Mila?
Say again.
Does the boy need Mila? At that point when they convert
Yes.
them?
Yes. Yes.
How long does it take to teach a child about scharbon? It could be a year, could be 2 years, could be
No, I think you're moidian. You're moidian oisoi. You inform him.
Miktsas. It's a miktsas mitzvah.
But that was late. That was by Kabbalah Sol Mitzvahs. Here it says you have to be.
I would
This
guess
is
it's the
different.
same.
You're more schar voinish.
It will be the same. It will be the same. It looks like
You
it's a
just
process of
generality.
Yeah, but that's the
A
problem
general,
because normal teaching
framework?
takes years for an
Yeah.
adult.
No, but miktsas, when the Rambam said about how you
Right.
Yeah, but
Miktsas
in
is
practical work,
You're talking about a 13-year-old
people
or
take
12-year-old
classes for
child.
years before they magire them because they want them to know.
They're doing what they're doing.
And then they go to Bezdin, and there's a formal process of Kabbalah Mitzvahs Lifnei Bezdin. But they don't just do that on one shot, on regalachas, like Hillel did. Okay.
You know, my son had a classmate at ULA, it was Rabbi Tendler, and he found out the night before that he wasn't really Jewish.
The night before what?
The next day, he comes back to Rabbi Tendler, he said, I found out last night that I'm not really Jewish. My mother was not Jewish, and she didn't go through a full, conversion.
Right.
And they had the child, and that's me, and now I found out, so.
So they
they
converted him.
No, he decided.
He says, go to McDonald's, enjoy the meat sandwich as much as you can, and then we'll talk about it next week. And discuss
Okay.
it.
And then what happened?
I don't know what happened.
I'm saying
I don't
he
know.
was
Told me.
Magayer.
He came
Huh?
back an hour later, he says, I can't do
He
that.
went to McDonald's, he sat there in the car, he's like, can't do it. He came
Yeah,
back.
I think I remember that story.
It's a true story. No, he knows.
He was already sold.
I
Okay.
heard that the RCC doesn't convert kids. That's what I heard of the policy.
We're going to hear tomorrow night. I mean Thursday night. Rabbi Block
That's what I heard.
is going to.
The RCC, they have a policy and not convert, which I don't know.
Not to convert a child?
Yeah, I don't know how it is.
So let's see the second sheet in Ritva. Yesh loimar that there's another way around this conundrum.
Where are you now?
No, I mean Ritva on the top of 227.
Yeah, okay.
That again, the Ritva was struggling with the problem of how could it be that he has to be moicha when he be magdil, but once he's magdil even 1 second, then it's already he's a Jewish and he didn't have. So Tosfos gave us one answer. Excuse me, the Ritva gave us one answer that it's not just magdil, it's magdil, and then you have to be informed. Yesh loimar the Mairi b'moicha v'hoilechas mitoch katnus la'achar gadlus shelo godlo sha'achas b'lei macha. Let's say once the child found out, maybe at 4 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old, that he had been converted, and he started protesting right away. I don't want it, and he continued to protest. That would be another example where the Higdil, and he protested, and therefore he doesn't accept it. But otherwise, if he was not Moicha, according to the second
He was a minor.
Lashon,
He was a minor at that time, he's not qualified to protest.
no, but what it means is, we see from his behavior and his actions and his things that he didn't want, he never wanted. And there was no break in that. There was macho, and then it was magdal, and the macho continued. That's just the Ritva giving us a method of how he could be magdil and the macho happens. Otherwise, according to so Rav Moshe writes that one must ideally inform the minor before reaching bar mitzvah that he or she is able to protest their status as a Jew and revert to non-Jewish status even before he's an adult. So he's almost taking both of the treatises of the Ritva. He says you should inform them when they're 12 years old, even before bar mitzvah.
So then the child becomes an orphan?
What do you mean an orphan?
Well,
Yeah, what happens to the child?
child obviously is converted by the parents, correct?
So you're saying so you're saying it's not practical. The child are not going to do it.
I'm just saying that would be the ultimate, unless the parents want to keep a boy in the house. So
It's a problem, because it's basically saying, what he's saying is that he doesn't really have a real bechira.
it's not
You know,
so simple.
it's like, listen.
It's a problem. It's almost like kfiyah. It's like kfiyah of a get. You're saying it's not really. What choice really did we give
What happened to
him?
the rest of us too?
Good point. It's a good point.
You look at it as our eyes today. That 13, they're still kids. Then 13, they were
Right.
Yes and no. I'm not sure if a person. What happens if the parents are very wealthy people, and he says, "Okay, I'll stay. I get the Yerusha, and then I'm out," kind of thing. It's not so simple.
So he's a Jew.
It's not God.
He's a Jew.
So, in the event that the adopted parents did not inform him at that time, Rav Moshe says it's not le'ikuva. He says we should try to inform them before the bar mitzvah. But if not, the child is nevertheless able to protest whenever he or she is informed. So you see, he's using both shitas of the Ritva, and is informed that such an opinion exists, which appears to follow the first explanation given in the Ritva. It's really the second. Oh yeah, because it doesn't deal with the constant protest. Says the Igris Moshe there, B'kol Makom, Tzarech Loidia Kodim Ben Yud Gimel, L'Zachar, V'Kodim Bas Yud Beis L'Nekeva, Mishum, Shirashayin Oz Limchos Ala Gerus. They could protest, but Azadaim Heim Tachas Hashposa Megadlim Oisom, they're still under the influence of the people who are raising them. Sheyesh Lismoch Shalo Yimchu Ad Achar Sheyu Ben Yud Gimel Vas Yud Gimel, because it's assumed that they won't protest until they're not going to. They have to do the formal process until they reach the age. But then we have the problem: once they hit the age, they can't protest. That's the first explanation of the Ritva, that they have to be told about it. If you don't inform them before the bar mitzvah, they will have forever to protest once you inform them.
That's the example of your high school student.
Ulevad shemistaber kain the posher shahar she'eni chol limchos achar shegodlo sha'achas dehu mishum the roitz is specific. He didn't protest. He wants it. The chazin she is a chus born. It's a good chus for him. Afal below yadi loy chazin megadluso klum she shemacha b'zeh. So the Ramosh is basically saying in the end that even if you didn't inform them before, you must inform them after and give them a chance to protest. Like it's no different. So contemporary poskim dispute the halacha in a case where the adopted child that is to be converted is being raised by a non-religious family, or whether the mother is not Jewish and the father is Jewish. In such cases, it is usually assumed that the children will not be raised in a religious manner. So on one hand, the basis for converting of a minor is that it's a schus privilege for the child to become Jewish, like Walter, because he's doing mitzvahs. Therefore, perhaps this is only true when the child will be trained to follow lifestyle Torah mitzvahs. Otherwise, it's not considered a privilege, since the child will primarily be responsible for transgressing numerous sins, and consequently, such a child will be a disaster to convert him, may not be converted. This is the concept of the RCC, why they don't, the issue of conversion of children has to do a lot. The problem is if the family's not religious, because of this issue, because then it's not as chus for him. On the other hand, perhaps the conversion is valid even in this case, as ultimately it's still considered a privilege to become Jewish, regardless of the person's actual needs. So the poskim debate that. Many poskim, including Rav Yechiel Yaakov Weinberg, Sridei Eish, right? Sridei Eish learned in Slobodka, right? But went to Berlin, became a PhD, was very familiar in Jewish philosophy, etc. Was involved in a lot of the controversial shechita rules. The Nazis had said you have to stun the animal before you shecht it. The Sridei Eish dealt with this.
They were very human.
Dealt with this, and so the Sridei Eish died in 1966, and there was a battle over his coffin where it should be buried. The Agudists wanted him, and the Bnei Akiva wanted. Why? There's a famous tshuva by the Sridei Eish that he supported the concept of a mixed tnuah, mixed camp, because he gave various svars there. He also was very supportive of a bas mitzvah. He thought psychologically, if you don't let a bas mitzvah, so the Sridei Eish was a really modern posik. So certainly the religious Zionist community definitely looked at the Sridei Eish as a posik in its camp, but so did the Haredi world. And in the end, they took he's buried in like a Haredi chalukah, something like that. If you want to read more about it, Mark Shapiro has a wonderful biography on the Sridei Eish. That was his first book that he wrote. It's very good. So the Sridei Eish accepted the first approach and ruled that one may not convert a child where it is certain they will not live in a religious lifestyle. So he was machmir here. Rav Soloveitchik is cited by Hershel Schachter Nefesh HaRav as also holding that such a gerus is not considered as chus if it can be assumed that the child will not be sent to a religious school or raised to keep a Torah lifestyle.
What did Rabbi Cohen do? Rabbi Cohen, I think, said.
Jack Simcha?
Remember? Rabbi Simcha Cohen
Was
has
he
the whole
Megayer
thing-
people?
Has the whole thing about if you have a
He wrote a
child,
book.
you just put him in the mikvah and that's it. And the
Why-
child is
Why,
automatically
what about the
Jewish.
concept from Lorish
Okay, but
But that's what he holds.
Shulchan Aruch says you need he can be protest, and if he protests when he reaches the age, he can protest.
No, but why put him in a mikveh? You put him in a mikveh, basically you're making.
But I mean, as a child, when he's a
So,
baby.
I mean, he's Jewish, who cares?
No,
You
no,
can't
well,
protest.
Jerry, what we've been learning now, in the previous paragraphs, is such a child that's been put in the mikveh has a right, when he's 13, to protest, and his gerus goes away, and he's not a Jew. Okay.
Then you put him in the mikveh.
Even if you put him in the mikveh. Says the Sri Deish, Kivan shetam shemagarim kodnu mitzad zochin odem shelo befonov, as Walter pointed out to us, uvenidi didone los chus. But in the case that was brought to the Sri Deish, that it's not a religious family, it's not a chus for him. Shar bevade lo yikayim mitzvahs begadluso, im kein mutav lo lashir goy, v'lo yemechuv mitzvahs k'Yisrael. Couldn't have said it any clearer. But some poskim, such as Vadia Yosef, hold that such as a conversion is valid, sort of b'diavad, post facto. It means aval kishroim abezin sheyesh chashash shabonim alola yichalu shabbos v'yontav begadlam, that they're going to violate Shabbos and Yontav nachon shelo l'gairam. So lechatchila they should not do it. But it says v'im avru, if they violated that, v'kiblum masha'asu asui. What they did is did, and you can't undo the
In
conversion.
other words, if you convert them and they did this, then it's okay. But the thing is, that's why they stopped them. I guess that's why. So, but there's no way.
So he said lechatchila, if you know that they're not going to keep, you should not be megayer
So,
them.
but
So what's
why
the-
wouldn't there be a concept of when he's Magayad, and let's say the family's not religious,
Yes.
right? And then they get this kid. Wouldn't there be a concept of from Lo Lishma, Ba Lishma, in other words?
Give him a chance.
Right.
Let him. Maybe he'll be about tshuva.
Maybe the parents will also
Okay.
be.
So you see, there's a machloikas.
I'm
So
saying
you see.
that's why that's where obviously the other side comes from.
Yes, absolutely. They want to give him a chance. You were going to say something?
It looks like there is a dispute between the Sri Deish and the Bia Omer. There is a clear dispute. The Sri Deish attacked the problem from the standpoint that there is no schus, so it doesn't work. Even B'diavad cannot work. How does Rabbi Ovadia Yosef will answer that? Where is the schus here?
Maybe like Walter. That mitoch shelo lishma bo lishma, and you can't prove
But that's
just
not
because
a
the
schus.
family.
It's not a
No,
schus.
no,
Maybe it will be-
no.
Ultimately, it's
yes,
schus.
Maybe,
yeah.
so what?
And a chana- so just because the family is not religious doesn't mean he's not going to be religious. That must be what they're going. One of the things he might be going
No,
on.
because you could take it from the concept that if they want to be Magaya, this child, right, to make him Jewish, so that the understanding is you make somebody Jewish so that he does the mitzvahs. That's what the understanding is.
Yes, that's the
They
schus.
say-
That's the schus.
The Sri Deish says if they're not religious, there's no chance that this child will do it.
And he doesn't care about the chashash that
They're
maybe it'll work.
saying in other words, it's a psychological thing. You want to make a child Jewish. That means that you want him to do the mitzvahs, even if you don't do the mitzvahs.
The question is if the schus is an objective thing or it's a subjective thing. If
It
the
has to be
schus is an
objective. It has to be objective, right? Otherwise, how can we
So if
rely?
it's an objective, so.
It's got to be. How about like the lottery
So you
ticket?
have.
That's how we calculate
so
whether
there
something
a
is a schus
chance-
or not.
There is a big chance that it will be a chayva for them. That's what the
what
Sri
about-
Deish
yeah,
thinks.
yeah.
But if you say that the schus, it's not an objective, it's a subjective thing. Sorry, it's not a
They can't
subjective.
conceptualize.
It's not objective, it's
It's an
subjective.
objective thing.
See,
It's a
that's,
schus.
doesn't matter.
Period. No matter what.
No matter what.
That's how I
This
see
is
it.
the problem with
So, by the way,
Jews when they-
there's a more machmir
They have
opinion.
Millions of them.
Rav Yitzchak Yaakov Weiss, who was the Minchas Yitzchak, the Dayan Weiss, who was invalidates such a conversion even post facto. That means he argues with the Abiyah Omer, and he says that if the Bezdin incorrectly magayered a child where the family's non-religious, even they did it, it's Masha Asui, law
Yeah,
Asui.
but where does he live? That's the thing. He lived in Israel.
They both
with-
lived in the same place. They live in Yerushalayim, both of them.
How can you be Mavatal that if the child doesn't want to be Mavatal?
What do you mean? Rabbanut in Israel was Mavatal. People's Yiddishkeit all the time. Whether they bring you you bring documents, they say you're not Jewish. So let's just see what the Minchas says. Fi mashni is born lona de im oisom sheroitzim lagadlo. Those people that are going to raise him, ena misnagim keshura, not religious. As afim achar shenigdal ayelid, who know kedas Moshe Yisrael. He says something worse.
Yeah, I know.
That even if the child is acting good, Mikol Mokum Kivan
He has to do it
Deloy Chala
again.
Geris Bismana, the Geris didn't have a normal aschala. Mitam Dlav Zechia Tzarch Gerus Mechodesh Av Bishnis Ratzachar Zeh.
What do you think that's gonna do to the child's parent relationship?
We went from here to here, just to show you the opinions.
Wow.
Okay. Now, I would recommend, we're gonna start Hilchos Mila today, but I would highly recommend, because you see, everyone's very interested in this, page 237, the conversion of minors, particularly those that want to attend the Thursday night cheer that Tzvika's giving, because he's gonna have Tzvi Block there, who's particularly gonna discuss the issue of the gerus of minors, that this is worth going through in detail. Okay. But let's start Hilchos Bris Milah, 249, it's also in Yordeya. And by the way, it'll be followed by Pidyon Haben. The dinim of Pidyon Haben are also in Yordeya. Yordeya isn't just kashrus. A lot of all the halachas we've learned so far, kibbut avayim and gerus, and is all in Yordeya. So, okay.
Avodim.
Here's a interesting
A
shot.
desensitization.
We'll see the answer.
Why I kept it in here, right?
It's good.
I have
So what page are we going to?
240.
This is a woman who is Jewish, who got married to a non-Jew. And she's pregnant. Okay? So, what is the obligation? Who has the obligation? So I went there and I said, if you want.
Well, the child is going to be Jewish. It's hoyrasa shelo bigdusha v'leida shebigdusha, but most will hold that the child is Jewish. Now, there will be an Indian that some people won't want to marry it to a Kohen if it was a girl. Although there might be lenient opinions. And so, what is your to suggest that the child undergo a gerus?
No.
So, what were you asking?
It's a question of bris milah. Who is the chiv of bris milah in this case?
Yeah, it's not the father.
Right.
Well, we're going to learn that. We're going to learn what the chiyuv is Ramiyan.
Tzipora did it.
Here's a good question: will the milah of this child be doicha Shabbos?
Another question.
Right? Like, you have to, normally, Mila b'Shabbos it's on an 8th-day child. But there are certain cases, for example, if you're born Bein HaShmoshes, Friday, Bein HaShmoshes. You don't do Mila on Shabbos the next week, because it's a suffix, so it's done on Sunday.
But there's
So,
no sveik on the child.
no, but we'll see.
Is it incumbent on?
Because it's suffix on a
But
yichus.
it doesn't.
Is it incumbent on the community? So I offered her. I said, listen, if you want to have a bris, I'll pay for it. Okay. But I said to her, as the question is it incumbent on me or someone in the community who knows her, right?
We are going to learn who is the chiyuv Rami on, who does it fall on if there's no father. We'll see. But that's part.
Okay.
Well, ultimately, but remember, there's no chorus until the child is 13. But technically, you're chorus every day, unless you have the milah. The mitzvah of Brit Milah is the second mitzvah in the Torah, right? First mitzvah is Pru'urvu. We had that last week, which was given originally to Avram, even before the Jewish people became a nation. The Torah appeared to give this mitzvah status higher than other mitzvahs aseh. Well, we know there's only 2 mitzvahs asehs that if you're mavatal them, you get chorus. Korban Pesach and Milah. That's why Dam Pesach, Dam Milah go together. The Mishnah Nedorim extols the importance of this mitzvah. Says Masechet Nedorim, Rabbi Yezer ben Azar Omer, Me'usa hi ha'orla. Foreskin is disgusting. Shenizganu bo rishoim. The wicked are disgraced with it. Shenemar, ki chol hagoyim arelim. The nations of the world are uncircumcised. Rishmuel Omer Gedolah Milah, shenichlusu aleh shloish esrei brisos. It's mentioned bris 13 times in relationship to bris milah. Rabbi Yossi Omer Gedolah Milah, shedoiches haShabbos shichamur. Right? You're allowed to violate. You're not allowed to do a chavala, a wound, and create blood on Shabbos. Here we violate Shabbos even for milah. That punishment of Moshe for not circumcising his son when he was capable of doing so was not postponed for even a full hour. That means he should have done it right away. And remember, the snake tried to swallow Moshe Rabbeinu up, even Moshe Rabbeinu. So normally, if you have a baheres, if you have a certain colored lesion, and you have to show it to the kohen, you are forbidden to remove it. You have to keep it until the kohen sees it. But let's say there's a baheris on the foreskin, the din is you're allowed to take the foreskin off. So it overrides the lav of not cutting off the baheris. I say but there's a huge sugya there, right? The kashas from 18 million places. Rabbi Omer, Gedoyle Mila, Shkol HaMitzvah she'asa Avraham Avinu lo nikra sholem ad shemol. Shenemar hisalech lefanai ve'yesomim. Only, he was called a samim only after he did Mila. Davar acher, Gedoyle Mila, she'ilmale hi lo bara kodesh baruch hu salamo. If it wasn't for Mila, he wouldn't have created the world. Shenemar ko'amar Hashem, im lo brisi, yomam v'layla chuko shemayim v'aretz lo samti. I wouldn't have given the laws of the universe without Mila. So the Tur also comments that Bris Milah is greater than other positive mitzvahs and brings the explanation from Rabbi Shmuel, as well as the fact that Milah is one of only the two positive mitzvahs subject to kores. If one does not fulfill it, the other we said is Korban Pesach. Says the Tur in your day, mitzvahs aseh l'chol adam Yisrael sheyom l'spno ugdol hi mishar mitzvahs aseh sheyesh b'tzad kores v'gam nichluso le'yud gimel krisos b'parshas Milah. So it's interesting. The Gemara there gave us a whole list. So he took two of them. Actually, the Gemara didn't say anything about the kores. He mentioned the Yud Gimel Brisos, and then he brought his own thing. It's interesting why he did that. Sefer Chinuch. So remember, let's remind ourselves. We don't know who the author of the Sefer Chinuch is. He lived 1200, 1300. He wrote commentary on all Taryag mitzvahs, and then of course the Minchas Chinuch Rav Babad in 1800. Wrote a great perush on the Sefer Chinuch. The Sefer Chinuch was a Rishon, so he's very reliable, and he also is one of the few people that give us Tamei HaMitzvos, right? He'll always give us some kind of reason for the mitzvahs. The other person who does it, of course, is the Rambam. By the way, that whole project was very controversial. One of the reasons the Rambam was attacked, one of the Chalokim Mor Nevuchim is Tamei HaMitzvos. And he was attacked. They didn't like that. You know, you're supposed to do mitzvahs like an Eved. You don't know. We don't want to know the rationality. And a lot of the debates with the Rambam were over Tamei mitzvahs. You know, you don't have that big. They didn't have such a big problem with the chinuch. The chinuch has the same mahalach in a lot of that. So mishor she mitzvazu. Lefi sheratz Hashem yizbarach likboa ba'am asher hiv dilios nikral shmo os kavua begufam. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he knew he was going to take a nation, make them separate, and he wanted to put some kind of mark in their guf. We had last week, Cain had a mark put on his thing, right? Rabbi Einar said it was the letter Vav, the Vav Chachibur, right? That it's always, because he didn't realize he should be connected to his brother. So the Vav Chachibur should be on his head to remind him that. So, Lavdila Mishar Amin B'tzuras Gufam, that Klal Yisrael, that's very interesting, that this mark in our physical bodies was a terrible curse during World War II, because they would be inspections. Let's say they were in Poland and Warsaw, whatever. They would find, if you were circumcised, you were assumed to be Jewish, and the Nazis killed you.
All the Romans, the Greeks, all the same problem.
I know, but it's closer to us. And not only that, we know of many cases where Jews tried to undergo surgery to reverse it, or they would wear weights. There's literally urological literature about that, to try to pull down the skin because they were hiding in a city underground, but people would undergo inspections. One of the first things they did, drop your pants to be inspected. Because in Europe, it was very uncommon for Goyim to be circumcised. Now, in America, 50% of Goyim are circumcised. Now, it's much lower among the Hispanic community. Hispanics don't circumcise. Filipinos circumcise. African Americans don't have the same resistance to circumcision than the Hispanics do. So anyways, Hashem wanted us to have a mark in our bodies. Just like their nefesh is different. Asher moitzim umovim eno shaveh. V'nikba hevdil begulas hazahav. He decided the gulas hazahav is the penile organ. He translates it the golden fountain. Lefishahu siba l'kiyum amin. Well, this is, reproduction occurs. It's the organ of reproduction. Milvat sheyesh bo tashlim tzuras haguf. And he says that by completing the circumcision, you've now completed the physical body. כמו שאמרנו. והעם הנבחר חפץ השם יתברך להשלים תכונוסו. He wanted human beings to finish the creation of his body. He wanted people to be a shutuf in Hashem's creation, and since his best creation was human being, he wanted human beings to also participate in. You're not complete until another human being does Mila to you.
Not in the Israeli army, you get 3 points.
3 point. You're 97.
Yeah.
So he didn't. In the Israeli army doesn't.
Well, that
Well, because
doesn't
that I would say that relates to your ability to be a spy in an Arab land, because you could be a better spy if you were uncircumcised. That's why if you have 100,
No, in an Arabs, no. In an
Arab
No,
circumcision
Arab-
also.
but some are not. But you could smuggle as a goy easier.
An Arab, you saying, who?
I don't know why they consider it. I don't think it's because of that reason.
No, I think it's a myth.
Why else? Why else would it be?
Just basically,
shtuch.
you're not shalem. You're not shalem.
Yeah, and yet I'm saying you could be used in
I
certain
think we
ways
consider
that a
that-
Jew can't be
that we
used.
consider
For example,
shalem.
Walter, a Jew who could not be circumcised because they had hemophilia or von Willebrand's disease, right? Or they have a low platelet count. So he's complete. So he could be used on certain missions by the army that a regular circumcised Jew could
Not.
not.
Find out from us for us why they take off 3
I don't
points.
think, because all the Russians that they are not circumcised, they don't get 100.
Yeah, because they
For
have,
other
they-
reasons.
but they may have other deficiencies.
But that's not. But the minute you come, you get a 97.
Yeah,
I
think it's a myth. You know, people say 97 and then they find the.
Like they say, you get 200 points for writing your signing your name on the SAT. I think it's an urban myth. Okay, so it says like this: V'ratza liyos Hashem yisborach. Okay, v'ratza liyos Hashem yedei adam. He wanted the human being to complete the human being. V'lo bar sholem mi beten lir mozila. He wasn't formed complete from the womb. To hint to him, when you as a human being will complete another human being, so too he has to complete his nefesh by refining his actions. It's a musar haskell.
It's חינוך classical חינוך אחרי המעשים נמשכים הלבבות. After your physical actions,
Your heart will
Right, so-
follow.
Your heart will follow. It repeats it over and over and over. There's another interesting thing here that you said that the non-Jews are different. Betzuras nafshosam.
I would say like
from
this.
a Jew.
I would say like this.
From Jews, that the nefesh of a Jew it's different than the nefesh of a
Rabbi
Goy.
Yehu-
This is Rabbi
That's
Yehuda.
why-
Rabbi Yehuda Levi.
It's like-
So Rabbi Yehuda Levi says
But this is not the Rambam.
says domem, a stone. Well, to see why is it domem a stone? Someach, then chai, which is an animal, and then medaber. Rabbi Yehuda Levi had Yisrael, had a fifth level.
That's Yisrael.
So he was racist. Really, Rabbi Yehuda Levi has a racial understanding of Yiddishkeit, that we are a different, we have a different neshama. The Rambam, and therefore, Rabbi Yehuda Levi holds that nevuah can only occur to a Yisrael. That's what Nadi said. Rambam has a shita that nevuah you can have neviim in Umas Olam as well, because if he can find himself in whatever, however you reach to the point of nevuah, he felt that goy could do it as well. Major machlokas between the two.
But we see with
Bilam.
Bilam.
Right, so he has Rabbi Yehuda Levi has a teretz for that. He'll have to be mataritz that. He says he created so that there was, because the Gemara says otherwise
Right,
they'll
else
have
they would be
a
tiny.
you didn't give it to us, whatever. But Meikar Adin, it can't happen according to Rabbi Yehuda Levi. So the Rambam and the Moreh Nevuchim suggest another reason for the mitzvah. So isn't that interesting? That we talked about that the two gedolim that usually talk about Tamei mitzvahs, these are the two because there's not many others who do it. It symbolizes a person breaking his desires by weakening his strength due to the mitzvah. Therefore, the sign is placed on the location of his desires in order to subjugate himself to Hashem.
But the 8-day-old child is not really weak, looking to break his
No, but you know that there are what we call circumcision antagonists. They have their own. You ever seen? There's a cartoon. They have a guy who's dressed up like. I should have brought it today. Like Superman. These are the anti-circumcision activists because they feel that sexual pleasure is reduced when you do a circumcision. So we're not talking about as the child. When as an adult, they claim that losing the foreskin, that's very controversial. Most of us do not agree. And we're going to, the Rambam didn't say that his desire is going to be decreased through the foreskin.
Urologist, what do you think?
I don't think-
Did you take a study on that?
Yeah, how do you do it? How do you take a study of that? How do you know?
It's very hard. But that's what their claim is. And the Rambam, this English, I want to see the language of the Rambam, because the Rambam is saying that the phallus is just a symbol of desires. He's not saying, and therefore we do something there to teach us a general rule to satisfy. Not he's not
sexual
saying
desires,
that
not sexual desires.
Exactly. Let's see what he says. V'chein hamila etzli echad mitamim lemayit hamishgal. He says it decreases sexual activity. Lahachli zeh ha'ever. The Rambam seems to say
It does.
that
It
it does
is.
decrease sexual.
Pleasure.
Yeah,
Right.
it says it.
What, circumcision?
Yeah. He says it more than
It's read it. L'mayit hamishgal ulahachlish zeh ha'ever kefi hayecholas ad sheyemayit
You
b'maisa
want to
zeh.
say it's a schus for somebody who's dying. Let me ask you.
Ukvar choshvu shezos hamila hi hashlomas chisoron yitzira. Right, some people said to do the circumcision is to remove a defect. But then people would say, "Umatzah kol choylek makam lachlok v'loymai." The people who argue with that can say, "Eichu advar mativim chaser." How could a natural thing? How could you be born in a natural way and that be bad for you? Ad shestarchu lashlomo michutz. So you have to do something external to fix it.
He's arguing with the chinuch
Yes, he is.
directly.
There's no question. Not only that, he's also remember he was an Aristotelian, and Aristotle said if something is born this way, that's the way nature wanted it.
It's perfect.
Right. So he's actually, but he was normally Aristotelian, so he's arguing
Yeah.
with the Aristotelian concept. Imash is bar mitu elis haor. Hula Averahu, Velonit mitzvah lahashlim chison abriya. Mitzvah was not given to correct some kind of defect in the bria.
There is a to'eles. There is a to'eles with this piece of skin.
Skin.
There is a to'eles, and you remove it.
Rak
So
lahashlim
why
chison
remove-
amidos. So it really is to perfect our midos. Vanezek ahu agufani amagila Averahu hu amechuvan. The circumcision counteracts excessive lust. For is no doubt, says the Rambam, that circumcision weakens the power of sexual excitement. Asher lo yisad bo dover min ha'pu'ulo shebehem amidas ha'ish v'lo tivadel ba'avura ha'olada. It sometimes lessens natural enjoyment as the organ necessarily becomes weak when it loses blood and is probably covering from the beginning. Listen, the Rambam soll sein gesund lived 1,000 years ago. Okay, he didn't have penile anatomy like we have. No, what I'm saying, also his medical understanding. We can't just because the Rambam was the Rambam. We've advanced much further. So I disagree with a lot of what he said here.
What's the mitzias of it? Plus, also, we know that
It doesn't affect your blood supply to the erectile to the erect. The foreskin is just excess skin. We get our erection through two cavernosal arteries that travel right to the corporal cavernosum. It has no difference whether you have a circumcision or not. Now, there could be sensitivity we lose some skin, and that skin is very sensitive. So the glands is very sensitive. In fact, the glands is hypersensitive. So one of the issues that happens is when the foreskin covers the glands, when we do a circumcision, the glands of a circumcised man becomes very thick because it's been exposed to air. It's much thicker than in a non-Jew that the foreskin has covered it. He's not exposed to air, etc., etc. So perhaps there might be a little less sensitivity to the glands, but not. There's no way that erection. I can definitely do a study to show that erectile function is exactly the same
Okay, so it's
between circumcised and uncircumcised, but you have sensitivity.
what about?
But not to be machlish, weaken the power of sexual excitement in order that the ability to have children and to have a normal erection would be affected. Not really.
Of health benefits?
Say it again?
Aren't there health benefits?
Yes, there are. Yes, there are, but that's not why the Torah gave Milah. Okay? There's no cases of penile cancer in men who are circumcised. Or you can report them in the literature if you do see one. I mean, and you know that penile cancer is the number one cancer. In the United States, the most common cancer in the United States is prostate cancer. Then you have lung cancer, and you have your penile cancer is extremely uncommon in the United States. But outside of the world, the number one cancer in the world is penile cancer. Because the skin cancer.
Is it all-
Okay, that's because, so first of all, even in America, skin cancer is much more common than all other cancers. But not skin cancer, you don't get it on your penis, but outside of the world, you get it on your penis. So like in China and in India,
What's
Bill-
the reason for that?
no, you're,
Not exposed
What's
to
the
the sun.
explanation for why?
no, but you get it elsewhere too. But you circumcised men do not get it. The other reason is, we know now that the viruses, certain viruses,
Okay,
so for cervical cancer and men, and the, 18, 16 and 18,
right.
you don't also get it unless you're uncircumcised, because it's harbored underneath the foreskin in the mucosa.
Something to do with
mastocyte.
hygienic,
Yeah, you can't clean as well when and it gets moist, and they get phimosis. Diabetics particularly get an issue where their foreskin cannot be pulled back, so it's tight. So you have to remove them. You have to do a circumcision on those people. Let's just finish the Rambam because we're coming Yes.
I wanna go back to that.
to where?
Why did you?
To Rabbi Yehuda Medaber. Medaber versus Yisrael.
Look at the end of this, there's a woman.
What is the benchmark? How you differentiate on a nefesh? In other words, when you say that a Jew has a different nefesh,
Neshama.
right, and neshama.
That's what Rabbi Yehuda Levi said.
Yeah, but I'm asking a Shaila on Rabbi Yehuda Levi.
It's not only Rabbi Levi.
Where is that? Where's the derivative?
Because from Avram Avinu, when he found Avram Avinu, that one person, and he gave that extra thing, because that's the Derech Hashem, the Mesilas Yesharim describes the approach. First it was going to be all the world, then it was going to be after Noach, maybe the three. Then eventually, one more chance, Avram Avinu, and then his people. And that's that's where Rabbi Yehuda Levi is getting it. And they stood at Har Sinai.
There's no way to delineate it. There's
No, you're saying there's no way to, how do we measure a neshama
It's a spiritual,
Yeah.
Right.
thing?
But that's why it's so difficult to.
The Rambam disagreed with Rabbi Yehuda Levi, no question about it. Now, let's just finish the Rambam. V'yosa mila mechaleshes kocha koishi. He says koishi is erection. Upamim shetechsar ha'ano. Now that I can understand. Maybe the pleasure is a little bit less. Hu davar shein safik bo ki ha'ever sheyishpoch damo. Says if there's going to be bleeding, v'yusar mechseu, you remove its cover mitchilas briyosa from the beginning. Yichalish bli safik, it's going to get weaker bli safik. Ubebiu amar chacham zelashar niveles lo'arel. Look at this.
I know, it's great.
He says that the Jewish woman, let's say, is raped by a goy, so she's going to stick to that goy. She doesn't want to separate because he's going to perform better according to the way the Chazal said that.
Gracious
Zeh
Rabbi.
chazak
Gracious
b'tamei
Rabbi.
amila etzli. So he says he thinks this is the best reason for the commandment regarding circumcision. The Rambam also offers another reason for bris milah. Am Yisrael are likened to the tzva Hashem, soldiers of Hashem, and should have a unifying sign on their body, just like soldiers in an army who all have the same, insignia. Like nurses who all wear the same uniform. There's a certain collegiality or fraternity between that group. His belief, Hashem, he wants to say it's like it creates a unity with the other people that are circumcised. So in this shir, we will not address the issues related to the process of circumcision, right, the priya and the mitzitza, but we'll instead focus on other halachos related to the general ceremony of bris milah.
Why can't they have it
And then we'll
somewhere
deal
else?
with that later.
Why can't they put it somewhere else?
Say again?
The simon. Why
He said-
does it
they-
be
they
on,
said.
The penis. Why can't you just put a earlobe or something?
So the
like
chinuch
that?
said, we want to do it to show that we're supposed to put a rein on our desires.
All
That could have been in other areas, but yeah, that was the chinuch. The Rambam says it was actually to weaken sexual pleasure, and therefore you'll have, in a sense,
Baruch Hu commanded Abraham.
From the.
that's the basic reason.
Right,
But the Rambam is trying to give an understanding of why it was given, why it was given.
From the Chinuch and the Rambam, you see that.
That's why you understand
From the
why
second
it was
source of the
controversial
Rambam,
to
we
give
see
Tommy
that